1979 was an election year. Southall, a predominantly Asian community, was faced with an invasion, nothing short of that, by the National Front, the equivalent of the British National Party today, particularly designed to create trouble. There was a protest against that event, a protest which was met by a police force which was determined to criminalise the protest, to shut down the protest and to protect the National Front who were holding their meeting.
Today's report puts out into the public domain the findings of Commander Cass's investigation at the time into the tragic death of Blair Peach. The report clearly states that there are some 14 witnesses who say they saw a police officer strike Blair Peach. The report goes into the efforts Commander Cass made to get to the bottom of that. And anyone who reads the report will see his conclusions that he says he thinks it's likely that a police officer struck the fatal blow. He thinks that some officers, clearly thought that some officers obstructed his investigation by lying about their movements or their involvement in the events of that day. It's a matter of deep regret to us and that we couldn't at the time, the Met couldn't at the time take that through to the absolute clarity of what happened that would provide the kind of answers that clearly Blair Peach's family and the public at large would have liked to have known.
We got the report last week and it was something I never thought would happen actually. I really, even in spite of Sir Paul saying last June he had a mind to publish, I was still fairly sceptical. There's things already in the Cass report that I've read that are pretty unpleasant, but there's the things that vindicate the whole 31 years of struggle. I feel vindicated because it was confirmed that Blair was struck by a police officer and that there was a huge cover-up by the members of Unit 1 of the Special Patrol Group, because those are what we were always saying and they were always knocked back. 31 years ago, the law was different, and in fact, reports done by police weren't made public to families. They are today. But maybe that's why the report's much longer, actually, because they never thought that we would see it. I think it was public pressure maybe after Ian Tomlinson's death and also under the Freedom of Information Act.
Ian Tomlinson died in the context of policing of the G20 protest by the Territorial Support Group, the direct descendants of the Special Patrol Group who were responsible for Blair Peach's death. There is a single line which one can draw from 1979 to 2009 in that respect.
The TSG is a very different part of the organisation than the SPG was. As part of the research for publication, I've looked at how the SPG operated, what their makeup was and so on at the time, and this is hugely different from the TSG, with all that we invest in the training of the TSG to make them a highly professional group of officers with skills that are necessary, often used in difficult circumstances in modern day policing. So very different from the SPG.
What the report reveals about the mindset in 1979 and about the mindset not just of the officers but also of the investigating authorities is the mindset that we see today. It is all too familiar in relation to the policing of public protest, in relation to deaths in custody, and in relation to the investigation of routine communal guard and complaints alike.
Do you accept that it's acceptable that less than 0.2% of complaints against the TSG are upheld? Less than 0.2%?
What we're absolutely clear about is the important thing with any complaint is that we get as good an outcome as possible from the point of view of the complainant and being fair clearly to the people that are complained against. We undertake thorough investigations and proportionate investigations into all those matters and we continue to do so.
He and other people were vilified in the report. I think you'll see that when you read more. You know, the Southall youth movement were called young Asians out of control, and Blair, you could tell him he was the only white person, it says, and you could tell him by his anti-Nazi League badge. I mean, he wasn't there. There were lots of white people, yes. He came to England in 1969 and got the job at Phoenix School and was there all his teaching. He was, You know, he really loved teaching, and he was president of East London Teachers Association when he died. But he'd also been involved, actually I can't remember very clearly, but in New Zealand with the Maori cause, and I remember he had a school magazine where he'd written about that in the 60s.
What Celia is looking for now is not an apology. She doesn't require an apology. What she does require is a clear and unequivocal acknowledgement that an officer of the Metropolitan Police killed Blair Peach, and she looks for that from Sir Paul himself.